Cool. Good morning, everyone. It's 9:04 and welcome to the meeting of the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. And I think in the 3 or 4 years that I've been here, that's the first time I've been able to get that out in one coherent phrase. With your permission, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I believe we have a quorum, but Daryl, would you mind calling roll or listing our names?
Sure. Chair Canseco,
Here.
Mr. Belemowitz,
Present.
Mr. Brumley,
Present.
Dr. Cartwright,
Here.
Mr. Francis,
Excitedly here.
Mr. Hallbauer,
Here.
Ms. Rogers. Ms. Rogers is here. Ms. Smith,
Here.
and then Dr. Taylor will be late, Madam Chair. He said he'll be here probably 20 to 30 minutes late.
Okay.
But you've got a
Thank you.
quorum.
Thank you so much. And the quorum has been certified. And before we begin, I'd like to welcome our two new members. Ms. Rogers, could you tell us a little about yourself? Don't panic. We have time.
Sometimes, you buy the external webcam. Sometimes it has difficulties staying connected. So yeah, I live in Fort Worth, Texas. I went to Southern Methodist University. That's how I came to Texas, originally from Florida. And I have my own small nonprofit consulting. And I've spent the nonprofit industry in Dallas.
Great, terrific. Thank you. Dr. Cartwright.
Hello, everybody. Glad to serve with you, and I'm looking forward to being on the board with y'all. My name is Dr. Mark Cartwright. I'm a clinical psychologist in Dallas. I'm also a school psychologist. Originally from Ohio, got my bachelor's degree at Ohio University and my master's and doctorate in school psychology at Ohio State. My internship with Fort Worth ISD brought me to Texas, and then followed up with my postdoc at Children's. Since then, I've been doing a lot of private practice work. Also, I'm the CEO of Care Clinical Services, but we're kind of a multifaceted mental health company. We provide services in long-term care facilities throughout Texas, and then we do a lot of telemedicine, a lot of medical clearance, and then just your typical private practice, sort of anything under the sun. So really happy to be here, really happy to serve, and looking forward to it, guys.
Welcome and OH.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me.
I have a colleague.
Ew, please.
Chair
Yes.
Canseco, I had a quick question. I was not able to hear who Ms. Rogers is representing, which board she's representing. Would you mind to say that out loud? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
The social worker examiner.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Welcome.
Welcome.
She has taken the place of Mr. Morris.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody, and let's get started. We'll start with item 3, a report from Mr. Spinks on agency operations.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. There's a couple of items on the agenda that I'm going to recommend that we take out of order. The first being, I know Mr. Chair Brumley has to go by 11 o'clock. So if we don't, we need to try to reach the social work rules before then so that he has an opportunity to participate in that discussion and vote, which I think we can do it. We can take them out of order if we need to.
Do you need a motion for that? Or
No, ma'am. As the chair, you can do that under your own prerogative.
okay.
And then the next item that I'm going to recommend we take out of order is 3L, which is the report on matters referred to the OAG. I'm going to recommend that we bump that to just prior to adjournment. There's not going to be any action required. We're just going to have to retire to executive session to discuss that matter. And then when we come out, there won't be any action needed. I don't want to disrupt the public having to shuffle in and out. It's a very short matter. We can just handle it at the end of the meeting and then adjourn. So those will be my 2 housekeeping recommendations.
So would it be appropriate to move the social work to right after your report, right after item 3?
Let's see where we're at on time, because given how y'all have been approaching the rules thus far, if I can be not so long-winded and get through mine, I think we're gonna make it just fine without having to move that. So the first item of business under mine is the first quarter performance measures for fiscal year 2022. I don't really have anything to say other than, just kind of let the figures speak for themselves. If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. I think we're doing pretty good.
Anything you'd like to highlight that you're particularly proud of?
The well, the average time for complaint resolution is very close to our target mark. If you look on page 6 of, let me just share it with you here so everybody can see what I'm talking about. If you look here on page 6, the average time for complaint resolution, our target is 750 days. We're at 783, so we're really close to hitting that target. Now, I know that's a lot, but remember, that's factoring in we're still cleaning up the backlog, which
Right.
candidly, I think we're going to clean that backlog up ahead of the 3-year schedule that we'd planned for. So I feel good about where we are. I know sometimes it still feels like it's a long ways out, but I'm here to tell you right now, we're making good progress on that.
It's certainly a dramatic difference from a few years ago when it was
Yeah,
almost a year.
Yeah.
sometimes.
over 1,000 days to clear a case. So we're doing good there. Any questions on the Q2 performance measures? And of course, you guys, I provided you all with the calculations as well. The relevant thing, or to me, the big thing that I always look at on the calculations is, let me share this screen again, is the average processing times that Jenny and I calculate. And you can see that here. Those are, they're looking good. They're looking, I'm very impressed with what the licensing division is doing. They're doing a good job. And they're doing a good job. I'll tell you, I expect to take a little bit of hit in Q2 on some of these numbers because of the holidays and because of, I can't blame everything on COVID, but COVID is definitely factored in. We've kind of had a surge here in the office of COVID, but we've also had like the flu, the cold, and RSV. So not all of our absences have just been due to COVID, but we've had a lot of respiratory illnesses running through the agency here lately. At one point, if you were in here, there was a whole lot of coughing and hacking going on. It's just the way it is. But I think we're probably going to take a little bit of a ding in the next quarter on that, on the Q2 number. So
Nonetheless, I see 5 items that were 5 digits and you brought them down to 3. And I think that's terrific.
Right. And a lot of these high number digits, I want you to keep in mind that those are digits that are, we're waiting on the applicant to do something. For example, this old LIC final, this is actually the old licensed psychologist process. We've still got some people going through that. You can see it takes like 588 days. That's not us. That's us waiting on them to pass the exam and accrue their supervised experience. So it's a little deceiving. If you just look at those numbers, you're going to be like, wow, y'all stink. No, it's just we're waiting on some folks to complete some work that they need for licensure. So
Understood. Thank you for that clarification.
and
So
we're
Mr.
also,
Stevens,
yes, sir.
in the case of like the MFTA exam, then
Mhm.
what would be one of the examples of why that so many days there? If it's an exam, what do we have to wait on from the applicant?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's something we're actually going to fix today. The reason that takes so long is we treat that application as though it were a full licensure application. In other words, we're making them do like fingerprints, get their NPD, making them get the whole shebang before we'll even approve them for a license. And so that is slowing things down tremendously because people are, stuff comes in piecemeal. They don't understand that, oh, I've got to do all this. I got to jump through all these hoops just to get the exam approval. What we're going to do today, one of the rules that y'all have on the block today is to streamline that process so that when they apply, they don't have to show all of that stuff. They just swear or affirm, or they attest or declare that, yes, I've got the requisite degree, that I understand that I've got 1 year to complete everything once I get my exam code. And then we send them on to go take the test. That way we're not holding them up. That's going to do two things. One, that'll shave off quite a bit the amount of time that somebody has to wait to get their exam code. But number two, it also means if you can't pass that exam, now you haven't wasted your time trying to submit all this documentation that really won't even be needed if you can't pass the exam. So we should have two pretty good outcomes from the rule changes we've got before us today. So I expect that number to drop quite a bit because candidly, I don't see how it could be much more than a day or two once we get this rule change in place and AMFTRB makes the changes on their end. So it ought to drop pretty quickly.
Have we considered how we look at that metric? So maybe compartmentalizing it. So literally we're measuring the exam days just for the time for them to take the exam, right? Versus right now that metric is measuring a whole process. It's not truly measuring just the exam, so it's showing as much longer. Have we thought about how we're defining the metric so it more accurately reflects the work of the department, the good work of the department?
Yeah, a lot of this depends on what I'm going to use a term here, and it's kind of a misnomer, an application within Versa. For example, on the MFTA exam, when they apply with us right now, they apply through what we call it a 1,000 application. And that application, once they pay their money, it then opens up another application in Versa. Now, each one of these applications has different tracking dates associated with it. It's very difficult to, well, in fact, I don't know how we would do it. I don't know how we would track days separate and apart from the particular application that is currently open in Versa. I'm hoping you understand, given your tech background, you probably understand what I'm talking about. It's tied to a particular segment in the database. So it's going to be difficult to do what you're suggesting.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So that's our Q1 performance measures and the statistics that go along with that. The next item that I've got on the agenda under my report is the year-to-date financial reports. This is just the board budget and the budget information that I provide to y'all. If you have any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer it. I mean, what I always look at and what I always tell people kind of the important thing to look at on these documents is at the bottom of it where it talks about percentage of budget remaining versus percent of the current fiscal year remaining. You want those to be, pretty close to one another. They're not going to be exact, but you want them to be close to one another. So if y'all have any questions about that, I'll answer those. Jenny,
Will you remind me when the fiscal year starts?
August 1st.
Great.
No, I'm sorry, September 1st, and it runs through August 31st of the next year.
Looks good.
We're different from the federal government. I think they start in October, if I'm remembering right. So the next item up is the update on licensing functions and basically the overall efficiency of the agency. Here I've got the average. I provided you guys with a spreadsheet showing the average, the monthly averages for processing applications. Again, I think we're doing pretty good. Marcella and I and Tim, we stay on top of this, and Jenny helps me monitor these dates as well. I think we're doing pretty good here. Everything is trending in the right direction. Like I say, I'm anticipating a little bit of an uptick in January just due to all the illness we've had and some of the holidays. But other than that, I think we're trending in the right direction. One thing I will point out that we're not, I don't know how to say, we're not struggling with it, but it is a concern that I have right now. And, one in our customer service report, which we're going to get to in a minute, if you read any of those comments that were the open-ended comments that were sent to us, one of the big gripes is access over the phone. I mean, we've beat this horse, bloody in the past, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But one of the things an idea I had after our last meeting was I talked with Alfonso came to me and said, look, I don't think we're going to need those temporary investigators because we're on top of things over here. We were having trouble filling them. So I thought I'm going to repurpose those positions and make them temporary receptionists to where maybe I can address some of these complaints coming in about access over the phone. So we did that. I made sure that enforcement was comfortable with the staffing levels they currently have and that they could maintain and still, still hold the line, hold the ground that they've achieved. And I moved those over to the temporary receptionist positions. One of the things I'm struggling with right now is filling those positions. I've got, I think, 1 or 2 people that have applied right now, but I have not been able to fill them. I was hoping to have them filled by now, but I have not been successful in doing that. It's not just those positions. We've got several vacant positions out there that we're having difficulty getting people to apply for, much less interview for. It's just, I mean, all y'all are all business people. Y'all understand what the labor market is like right now. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but that's something that we're struggling with. One thing that Jenny has taken and run with is she has really, I got to give Jenny and really Tim to some degree credit for this. They have kind of taken and advanced us way faster than what I ever thought we could towards completely being online. Jenny and Tim, they handled a lot of the moving everybody to online applications. I can't claim any credit for that. That was really Jenny that did all that. Jenny has also taken the lead on moving us there for reinstatement applications, written licensure verification, which Lord only knows how many of those we get. I mean, we get a ton of those every year. So everything she puts online reduces the workload online staff so that they're able to focus more on the processing of the actual application. So those are huge steps forward. And I got to give her credit for all of that because she's kind of moving mountains there. And she's also doing it because we're about to come up on a database freeze where there won't be any changes that we can make for quite a while when this database freeze kicks on. So she's really been pushing it to get all this stuff done. But anyway, I just wanted to point out that thanks to your CFO, you've pretty much got almost every function that we do on the licensing side has now been moved into the online virtual sector. And that's really the credit's due to her on that. So any
Now, our
questions about that?
C-suites can only do as well as our leadership does. So thank you for that too.
Let's see. Any questions on the licensing update or any of the numbers or anything like that? I've also given you an index of staff positions to show you what positions are currently vacant, what, who all's here, the warm bodies we have. So kind of give you some idea of what we're looking at there.
Mr. Spinks, question on the receptionist, and thank you for sending out the note to us, informing us on the difficulties of the hiring of that position. Appreciate that update. The question is, can we hire contractors or temps in the meantime while we're waiting to bring on full-time to help remediate some of those issues?
I hadn't really thought of that. I know there's some very special and persnickety rules that deal with temporary. Jenny, do you remember what the law is on hiring temps?
We can go through a temporary employment agency. I would think that the issue with that is the training for those people. And then, especially since they're answering the phone, they're gonna have to know all the programs, and then you spend all this time training them, and then they're gone when you hire somebody that you're gonna have to train all over again. But we can go through a temporary employment agency and hire temporary receptionists.
It's considerably more expensive as well, if I'm remembering right.
It's probably, I don't know, because they take their cut of it. We haven't used one so long, but it's more than $20 an hour that we have to pay to the temporary agents.
Does the nursing board do that when they or I can't remember if they use temps? The nursing board has some kind of a program that they use that they get a surge of people at one time, and so they use it every year, and they have a counter surge that they implement. And I can't remember if it's temps they bring on board or volunteers. I cannot remember which it is.
The thought being that, yes, I would agree, it's definitely more expensive, but it's more of a try and buy, right? If the person comes on, you invest in the training in them and you like them, then you buy their contract out from the temporary agency, and that will cost more. But in the long term, you have someone in place. And right now your budget's sitting at 27%, where 5 months in it should be at 40%. So there's more than enough money to be able to cover the cost. And it just provides a better level of customer service, because as we all know, it's going to take a while to hire 3 different receptionists. So even if you just do one temporary, you're better off. You have somebody in place versus not having anyone in place.
What, George, how would the fact that those are temporary receptionist positions factor into your judgment there?
Well, with any luck, my thinking is, and I've done this before, is that I hire those temporary after I've seen how they've performed, right? So I train them just like I would any other employee. You have that investment to make, but if they train well and they do well, then you hire them straight out as a full-time employee.
Okay.
Like a pre-assessment. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Buy before you buy.
So-
The one issue there is we'd be moving them from a temporary receptionist position into, we'd have to have another permanent position to put them in, which I mean, we've got right now. What I'm kind of leaning towards is when we do our LAR is asking the legislature to make those temp positions permanent so that we can basically duplicate like what TDLR does. They have a call center. We don't need it on the scale that TDLR has it, but that would give us 5 receptionists to handle the phones. I'm flirting with that idea. That's something that we probably all need to talk about and see if that would be a good idea. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm envisioning us going eventually is kind of really bolstering those numbers so that we can.
But if you're tracking towards the industry right now, it's going to take you 4 to 5 months to hire that position. And so in the 4 to 5 months, you can get a contractor in there in a couple of weeks. You spend a couple months to train that person to make sure they're up, and then you're 2 months ahead of the timeline, right? So
Okay.
it's just the numbers.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, definitely.
Thank you, George.
Okay. Any other questions on the licensing before I move on to enforcement? All right, hearing none. The enforcement functions, you guys have got the Q1 enforcement report that Alfonso provides to everybody. Again, we're looking good here. I'm very pleased with where we are here. 579 total pending complaints at the end of Q1. When I asked the other day, I don't know if Alfonso's on here. I don't think he is, but when I asked the other day, we were up to like 599, just barely under 600. I think we're probably approaching kind of what I call parity, which is there's going to be a number that we just kind of roughly stay at due to incoming complaints and how fast we can cure or, process through complaints as they come in. But
That's good.
I mean, I'm very pleased with the numbers that I'm seeing here. So we do have one attorney position that's still vacant that we're trying to fill. That will certainly impact the numbers if we can get that filled as well. All right, if nobody has any questions on that. The agreed orders and dismissals, those are just there for kind of FYI. There's no action or discussion needed if anybody has any questions. Patrick, you got anything on SIPAC? Any update there?
Sure, just real briefly, we have reached 27 states have joined SIPAC and 7 more have legislation introduced to join it. Texas has 574 what are called APITs, Authority to Practice Interjurisdictional Telepsychology. So you've got 574 from Texas, and then 33 are Temporary Authority to Practice, or TAPs, issued.
No, that 500, Patrick, that's our folks. That's Texans that can participate
Texas.
under.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not counting the other folks in jurisdictions that can come here, because that's several thousand.
Yeah, there's 4,835 from last count from December, I think, total. So, right.
The reason that number is important is, I mean, you always hear, hey, we're in a mental health workforce shortage. We have now upped the number of providers that are available to Texans by over 4,000, thanks to participation in SIPAC. So if we can get the same thing out of the social work, compact, the counseling compact, those are cheap and easy ways to really make huge strides in the number of providers available to your citizenry. So that's one of the reasons I'm a big proponent of those compacts. Any questions on SIPAC? Anything else, Patrick?
No, that's general.
Okay. The workforce study work group, that's where we are working on developing our own workforce study in conjunction with the state associations. That's coming along nicely. We're gonna meet again. We've already met once. We'll meet again to discuss the stakeholders' inputs and concerns. I think it's about mid-month this month. I can't remember the exact date, but hopefully I'll have. Say again, ma'am.
That's G?
Yes,
Got it.
G, I'm sorry.
Thank
Yes.
you. That's all right.
Yeah, hopefully I may have a finished product for you to actually adopt and we can implement this thing at your May meeting. So keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully the sooner we can get that out there and start collecting data, the better. Cause I mean, I'd like to have some data going into the next legislative session, but I don't want to rush into, a cruddy product into production. So we'll wait and see what the work group says. But the next item is the report following the staff discussion of the fee review advisory's recommendation. If you'll remember, the fee review advisory committee came back with recommendations. I've included those recommendations in your meeting materials. It's basically to set our fees at either the lesser of what they currently are or 75% of the national average. The one concern that we all had was that's going to significantly reduce the amount of excess revenue that goes into the state's coffers every year. It's enough to cover our operations, but it's going to cut excess revenue by, I don't know, 1.6 million, 1 point something million dollars. And I was concerned about how the LBB and maybe the comptroller would react to that. So I tried to reach out to the LBB. You guys saw the response. I put a copy of that in there. So basically what I need to know from y'all is, do you still want, I mean, we don't, nobody said one way or the other. Do you want me to bring a rule back to reflect the fee review advisory committee's recommendations? I tend to lean that way and just say, look, if nobody's going to say anything, let's do it. And see, see where the chips may fall. But I didn't want to do that I don't want to waste my time because it's a lot of work drawing up that rule change. And it's going to make Jenny's life miserable too, that kind of a rule change. But I need to know what y'all want to do there. You want to move
Tell us
forward?
where you think the chips will fall.
I honestly don't know, Madam Chair. I really don't know how this, because it's such a huge drop in the excess revenue that's generated by the agency. I really don't know what the reaction is going to be.
Dr. Cartwright?
Yeah, I just was kind of curious. So what would the ramifications be? If budget was, revenue got so low, what if there was an emergency? I'm just kind of curious as to what the drawbacks would be. I mean, obviously I saw there's a pretty big discrepancy between full 86 and 75. You're looking at, what would be the drawbacks one way or the other? I know that less additional, funds for that kind of, I guess, the general fund that it goes to for like surplus. But outside of that, what could be some pros and cons, I guess? I know it's the governor's agenda to get 75%, but in lieu of that.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, I think, is that when Jenny and I submit our base revenue estimate to the LBB and the comptroller, and we say, okay, we're going to be bringing in, 1.6 million less than what we did the last biennium. And they say, well, no, we're not going to accept that. We still want you to bring it. And they set it because I think they have the power to do that. They can say, no, we want you to bring in this amount. In other words, you're still responsible for bringing in that. So we've adopted a fee change that's now going to put us short on generating the funds that we're required to generate, which means we'd have to change our fees back. And we might even have to go a little bit higher just to make up the difference of anything that was lost in that interim. That's the worst case scenario. Dr. Cartwright, this is nobody's ever done this. I don't know of anybody that's ever kind of played this before, made this kind of a move. So we're in uncharted waters here.
Yeah, it's a pretty big cut. I mean, when you look at the numbers, and I just was reading them last night, and so just curious about what the pros and cons could be on that.
Now,
On the other hand, right. On the other hand, Texas is experiencing unprecedented growth. The climate just all across the country, I wouldn't say it dictates, but indicates maybe that the need for mental health professionals is more pronounced than it has been in prior years. And that is our role. I personally, if the risk is simply that they'll tell us no big deal as far as I'm concerned, but I'm not sure what the rest of you think. Now, Mr. Francis, I see your hand.
Madam Chair, I'm in agreement with you. The worst case scenario is they tell us no, we have to come back and we revise it. And so I think the downside is minimal. So if you would, I would offer a motion that we authorize Mr. Spinks to go ahead and make the rule change and proceed.
Mr. Hallbauer, I see your hands. We need a second to the motion and then we can entertain discussion and I'll call on you.
Okay,
Unless you're seconding now.
I'm not seconding. I had a question, but
Is-
go
is there
ahead
a
and proceed.
second? Is there a second? I don't see a second just yet. Daryl, what's parliamentary procedure where that's concerned?
It fails.
Yeah, that motion fails.
So that
And
motion,
it's still
fails.
up for discussion.
let's continue to discuss. Mr. Hallbauer?
Daryl, my concern is how would this impact your ability to add staff in the future if you've reduced possible revenue that these departments generate?
It really doesn't impact it because we can't touch that money anyway. We can only use what is appropriated to us. Anything we generate over and above that amount just goes into the state's checking account. So it doesn't impact us. Now, here's the politics of it, I think, if you will.
And that's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we've always been able to argue when we go before the legislature and ask for budget things that are going to cost additional money is we've always been able to say, well, look, we bring in like $1.6 million every year over and above what you guys give us back. So we're making enough to cover it. Now you've reduced that to like $300-something thousand every year. So your argument, you've kind of whittled away that argument of we're not as big of a cash cow as we once were. I'm just trying to view it as if I'm setting up on that dais over there on Senate Finance or House Appropriations, I'm like, well, look, these guys make 1.6 million, for us over and above what it takes. Give them their little $30,000 request or whatever it is they want, and let's go on. It's not quite as palatable of a deal when you're only bringing in $300,000.
Neither is it our principal role. Our principal role is not to be a cash cow for the state. although
Correct.
I'm
That's
glad
right.
we do that. Our principal role is to protect the public and to assure that the providers that the state's citizens need are in place and can achieve what they need to achieve as easily as possible.
And I will say that one of the things that was discussed again and again when BHEC was being debated was to achieve efficiency and economies of scale.
But we've done that.
I mean, I guess, if somebody says, well, we don't want you to cut it. I'm like, well, look, you're kind of undercutting one of the purposes behind creating this is we can actually lower the cost to our folks if you'll let us, if you don't get in the way of that. But I also understand that we're just a small part of the aggregated state budget. So I get that too.
How small, do you know?
We're budget dust, but dust adds up to dirt clods and,
I see Ms. Smith going like this, not a very big amount.
I mean, don't forget, until BHEC, no mental health revenue ever was a line item in the state's budget.
No.
It all went into general fund. And then they gave us the money that they felt like we should have. So I think I want to know a little bit more of the background and forgive me for, not knowing this, the background for the rationale for this big of a budget cut for the license. What was the background in it? Why was it needed? Because my inclination is I would like for us to go one more year in BHEC before we discuss changing our license revenues.
The fees, you mean, to folks seeking licenses, right?
Yeah.
I'll answer that, Ms. Smith. I probably want to defer to Dr. Taylor's. I don't want to interrupt him. I've been cutting in front of him now a couple of times. I'll shut up till he did.
Oh, I'm patient. I can wait. I thought that was a great question, Janine. How about I just go after you? Answer her question, then I'll ask mine.
I didn't see
Wow.
your hand. Sorry, Dr.
No,
Taylor.
you're fine.
You're up on the right in the corner of my screen. You're going to need to go like this. Sorry, I apologize.
Ms. Smith, I think probably the greatest, the impetus for this particular percentage of budget cut is the governor's letter, where he indicates that he wanted fees. He wants agencies to shoot for 75% of the national average. Ours is a little different in that we say the lesser of our current fees or 75%, because honestly, we've got a lot of fees that are already below 75% of the national average.
That's right.
So we're ahead of the curve on some of this, but we've got Governor Abbott's letter to us. That's some justification for why the committee came to this recommendation that it did. So that's the best answer I can give you there.
Daryl, so I definitely want to support our governor and whatever he wants to do. So I'm happy to move forward with that. My question though is more about fines. Have we made any effort? I know on the LPC board, we've been issuing a lot more punitive fines in the disciplinary process. Is that a lever that we can sort of activate a little bit to say, we can make up some of that income in fines, or is that a drop in the bucket compared to the licensing fees every year?
It's really a drop in the bucket. I personally, when everybody came together at Psych Board, we used administrative penalties quite a bit as a disciplinary tool. When we all came together, I was looking at the way y'all did it. Y'all didn't seem, none of the HHSC boards really seemed to use administrative penalties all that heavily, if at all. And so I've asked Patrick, I'm like, look, kind of, you've got this full range of punishment matrix available to you: admin, penalties, reprimands. Use it all. Don't just focus on, reprimands and stuff. So we've been trying to do that. One of the things that I learned when I was practicing law is, and especially dealing with criminal law, is you want to stay away from financing government on the backs of those on whom you're punishing. I watched the court system increase fees, court costs and stuff on folks that were, accused and convicted of crimes. And I'm not here to pass judgment one way or the other. I understand all the competing interests that have to go into that. But one of the things I learned is you really got to be careful if you're going to finance operations on that revenue stream, because it is not a stable revenue stream by any means, and it's certainly not a reliable revenue stream. So, and it can really put you at odds. It can end up twisting your view of your function or your role. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go find everyone $10,000. That's my
Yeah. Yeah. I am personally very conscious of that aspect of it, because I don't want to see us, and I'm not suggesting anybody's even suggesting this. Y'all just need to know that the way I approach it is I tend to be very conscious about that, because I don't want us to ever get twisted in our function there. But it's not really a significant, I'll tell you where we make probably the biggest money maker that we have that's not appropriations to us is those written verifications that Jenny is about to move online. We make a significant amount of money off of those, where we're sending out verifications to different states. Those are a very big source of what we call appropriated receipts.
Right. If there's no other discussion, I think it's,
Madam
oh,
Chair?
sorry, I didn't see you, Ms. Smith.
That's all
Go
right.
ahead.
No worries. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one just quick question. Is there a happy medium between what we have right now and what's proposed? Is there a happy medium in there, or is it either so black and white? And I asked this question based on the comment that I heard Mr. Spink say, worst case scenario, we go ahead and lower these. They don't, it's one thing to say lower it. It's another when we look at it, hey, that we're not going to give you as much money. And they come back and they say, no, you have to crank them back up again. That part, that part makes me hesitant to do it. So that's why I'm asking, is there a happy medium on there?
Is that column G? I see that we have column F highlighted at 75%, or the lesser of BHEC, and column G, you have it at 86%.
Yeah, that was another percentage that the committee looked at.
Right.
Originally, that was kind of the way they were going. And then I don't remember how we got on. I think probably the governor's letter was what shifted everybody over to the 75%. I don't want to, I would let Dr. Cartwright had a question, then I want to. I'll
Sorry.
throw a possible solution out there to y'all.
Go ahead, Dr. Cartwright.
To Ms. Smith's point, exactly. Like I was almost thinking if we could, maybe compromise and look at that 86% number. I think we'd kind of maybe we'd be showing good effort and at the same time reducing the fees. And but I don't know if it's kind of like either all or none. I don't know to what degree or to what extent the governor's message is intending for it to be. But I mean, it does show good effort and kind of accomplishes both to a certain degree. Just
What if, and I'm just thinking of this sitting here, what if we propose the rule change, but we set the effective date out to say September 1st of 2023? That would be after the next legislative session. That would be in the beginning of the next fiscal year. That would give the LBB, the comptroller, and the ledge time that if somebody, because they're going to see it, I think Jenny and I will. Jenny, would we have to submit our new BRE estimates? We'd have to submit the new BRE estimates.
That's
But
part of the LAR. When I do the estimated revenue schedule, that's where they pull the BRE from.
okay,
You guys, acronyms, what's a BRE?
baseline,
Biennial revenue estimate.
yeah,
Biennial revenue estimate.
revenue estimate.
And they pull those when we submit our legislative appropriation request, which will be this summer. Then they will pull those numbers and then they come up with, the LBB comes up with the biennial revenue, actually the controller, I'm sorry, with the biennial revenue estimate. And that is what they take from all of the agency's estimated revenue schedules that are submitted during this summer. And that's what they give the ledge to say, this is the amount of money you have to spend.
Jenny, if we set the rule to become effective September 1st of 2023, which would be the fiscal year, that's actually the beginning of fiscal year 24. Would the BRE reflect this new rule change, or would it reflect our current fee
No, because
rates?
if we're thinking that we're going to start the new fees in effect for the next biennium, that's what we would put in our estimated revenue schedule.
Okay,
We would show what we've actually collected this biennium, and then you're going to see the humongous drop there for the next biennium, what we expect to collect. And then I have to put an explanation there under comments about why the difference is, which would basically be fee changes. And that would be their, I guess, chance to comment on it.
yeah, that would give the powers that be the opportunity to call us and say, no, y'all are not doing that. And then we would still have time to correct it, to change it back and prevent that change from ever kicking in.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
That seemed, Jenny, is that to me, that feels like a fairly safe course of action for us.
Right, because the controller is going to look at that, and typically they do question me, about the difference in what we've collected in the past. If we're collecting less or if we're collecting more, they typically want to follow up with me to discuss that. So that's the number that they would be using for their biennial revenue estimate that they give the ledge. So they're going to be looking at those numbers. So if that's going to be their chance to question it again. To me, that's the best thing, is to push it off to that way. The fee decrease coincides with the beginning of the next biennium. And we've covered that in LAR and told them this is what we're going to collect. So,
Mr. Hellbauer?
Yeah.
Daryl, are there any comparable state government departments similar to ours that are wrestling with the same question right now?
Not that I know of.
So no other group is looking at the same reduction in their fees, and the same question, like if we do this, then it's less the revenue contributed to the general fund?
No, I'm not aware of anybody that's looking at it. I will tell you that when this all, it started back under TSBP, the psych board, when I was over there. I had kind of sent out a feeler to some colleagues that I felt like would probably give me the straight answer. And I had indicated that I was considering bringing something like this to the psych board back then. And it was going to be such a significant change that let's just say the informal advice was to don't do it. That that might not be a good idea now. That was a different day and age and different time. That was pre-Governor Abbott's letter. That was pre-BHEC. I can feel around. I can kind of ask around some of see if any other EDs. I know TDLR does a lot of this. I don't know that they make, given their volume of licensees, they could change their fee by a nickel and still drop, several $1 million just because they have so many, $1 million+ licensees. I'll kind of put my feelers out and see if anybody is wrestling with this type of thing and if they have what they've encountered in the
So
past.
before
I like the idea
recognize-
of the,
Go
I
ahead.
like the idea of the later effective date. But if there's no other groups doing this, I think that we need to recognize that we're kind of setting a precedent on how we think this should be addressed. As in, we're trying to meet the governor's directive. However, this is what we did, and the reasoning behind it is that flexibility, because we're uncertain on the reaction to the decline in the general revenue contribution.
I see you.
Chair?
I see you, Ms. Smith. Just one comment before I recognize you.
No worries.
Perhaps we might consider then a motion to postpone with a report at the next meeting, one that reflects a decision or a recommendation with a little more thought to it, or maybe some alternatives to consider, even looking at the 86% number. It seems to me that with this discussion, it sounds like we need to put a little more thought into this. So hold that thought. Ms. Smith, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we went ahead and did what Director Spinks was saying to set the timeline out, then it seems like that we have accomplished all of our goals. We have followed the governor's directive of the letter. We have not jerked around our licensee saying, oh, it's going to be this, but sorry, now it's going to be this. So that hasn't happened. And we get the feedback from the legislative body, whether this is a good idea or not. So that was all I was going to say, is that it accomplishes everything that we want to be able to push it to a further out start date.
Would you like to make a motion to that
highest
effect?
time. I would, yes. I would make a motion that we would put our enforcement date for the September 2023 changes.
You might go ahead and proposing the fee changes, but with an effective date of September 1st, 2024.
Do I hear a second? Thank you.
2023 or 2024?
I'm sorry, 2023.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the
Second,
motion
Madam
was
Chair.
made and seconded by George. I mean, by Mr. Francis. Is there, I guess we'll signify by showing aye. All in favor, signify by either raising your hand so we can see you. I think I tried saying aye one time. It totally didn't work. Looks like all are in favor. Sarah, we can't see you. John, we can't see you. If you're there, could you use the raise hand feature? Oh, that's right, John. We can't see you. Aha, we can see you now. Thank you. So the motion passes unanimously. Thanks so much. That was a really good discussion. And I think that we're looking, at our role. I think that we're looking at our licensees, and I think we're looking at the state as well. I think that's a very balanced approach. Thank you.
And always keep in mind that we're simply proposing this rule right now. If something happens in the 6 months, just pull it down or change
Okay.
it. I mean, you're not married to it at this point. So
Thank
we've
you.
still got flexibility.
Okay, so moving on, I think you were on J, H.
I was on H.
Mhm.
The next one is 3I, the review of the customer service report. I put that in y'all's materials as well. I will need, well, first, I guess I can answer any questions y'all might have on this. But we do need to approve that customer service report in there as well. I need a vote on that. But first, do y'all have any questions or comments on the?
It was beautifully done. This was one of the attachments that I looked at more carefully than others. And I think, I can't remember who came up with this idea. I think it was you, Mr. Francis, but it's beautifully done. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Daryl? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
Madam Chair, I would offer a motion as such.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. Second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. All in favor signify by saying, oh, is there any discussion? Sorry, I forgot. Okay, all in favor signify by raising your hands. John, turn on that TV. Okay, it looks like all in favor, and we see John. Thank you so much. You guys, I'm sorry that I go between first names and Misters and Mrs. I'm not being consistent. Sorry about that. Okay, so it passes. Next.
Next is the strategic planning efforts and timelines. This is just going to be a quick report. I'm expecting to get our strategic planning instructions this month. They came out in February of last month. And I looked last month, our deadline to produce the strategic plan or submit it was June 1st. I won't know what our deadline is till the instructions actually come out, but I'm anticipating roughly the same time frame. So should have the strategic plan back to you at your May meeting for approval and then submission.
So my
But
remark is strategic plans, but you know, they're a little bit of a pain, but they do produce results.
Yeah, I think for me personally, one of the biggest benefits of it is you get to highlight. It's a chance to highlight problems in statutes or laws elsewhere that need to be fixed. So you know, this is our opportunity. If the member boards, if you guys see something that's not working in your statutory framework and you want to see it change, you need to let me know. That way I can include that in the strategic plan.
Is there board participation? Is it strictly staff led?
It's mainly staff led, and it's not really the member boards that do it. It's this body. The council is the one that does the strategic planning. I probably need to reach out to some of you, and Madam Chair, I'll probably get you to kind of help me look it over and maybe get you to conscript a few of your council members here to help us. We can do that on an ad hoc, on the fly type basis, but I want y'all to review it and kind of tell me what you think before I actually take it to the board meeting. And then I have to make changes based on that. I'd rather get y'all's feel for it beforehand. That's how we did it last time.
Thank you. And what about input from our member board? Should council members be seeking that in case there's something, or should I just assume that happens? Should we?
I mean, it would be a good idea to do it. One of the things that I can do though is I can get the board admins to just kind of informally poll the board members and see, hey, what do y'all think? Another way to do it is the board members can just take that strategic planning survey that I've got out there on the website and that I've emailed out. In fact, it should have gone out, I think last night, again, a reminder about it. I've emailed the entire licensee population on that. So we've got, I don't know, 500 or 600 comments on that so far that I'll have to go through.
And that would be great. Folks, do you all think that that's something that you could help with your member boards or the boards you represent?
Strategic, yeah, it's just strategic planning is just a big picture
Mhm.
thing that we're dealing with. So
I saw a couple of nods. Thank you. If you would, and you have time, that would be very helpful to our work. Is there any other comments about strategic planning and the process as it moves forward? Okay. let's
none
keep
for
going.
me. Next item is the insights over the lunch hour. This is something that executive level staff and myself started. I don't remember when we did the first one now. It's been several months back. It seemed to be, people seemed to like it. They said they did in the follow-up survey that we submitted. Basically, it's just something we get out there, we tell them, hey, here's what's going on at the council, here's what's going on at your member board. And then we just open ourselves up for questions, whatever they want to ask. Now, we don't answer stuff about pending applications or pending complaints, but anything else is fair game. I kind of like those types of things where people can ask us whatever they want to. It seemed to be a big hit, so we're going to do another one later this month. I think sometime late in February, 28th, somewhere from there. What I wanted to know, and board member Chaplain Stoglin with the MFT board had asked me about this. He said, hey, can we give continuing education credit for that? And I'm like, well, I probably can't on my own authority. I need to check with the council first. I don't see why we can't give, an hour's worth of continuing education credit for it, because we're talking about, really what we're talking about here is ethics. We're talking about rules either under consideration or that are promulgated by the council or the member boards. It's or other laws affecting the practice of fill in the blank, marriage and family therapy, psychology, whatever. So I don't see any reason why we can't. I floated this idea by the MFT board their last meeting. They were like, yeah, go ahead and give an hour's worth of credit. So I know they're fine with it. I hadn't had a chance to check with the other boards, but I can't imagine anybody getting twisted up over an hour, based on this kind of a presentation. So I'm
Right.
asking for permission from y'all to be able to give folks an hour's worth of
Yeah,
credit.
Chris won't like it. He doesn't, he wants to give more and more and more CUs. So Chris, Dr. Taylor isn't gonna like this.
Hey, Daryl, we had talked about like having an LPC focused one of these. So how would the credit work for the other boards if they were to watch the LPC specific insight into the lunch hour?
Well, the good thing is because so much of y'all, there's so much dual licensure and there's so much interplay between the professions. I know in psychology, we've always counted if somebody went to a counseling continuing education program, we counted it. They could count it towards psych. And I see no reason to treat it any differently amongst the professions here. So we're at the staff level, unless y'all tell me otherwise, we're going to count it. If they go to the LPC board presentation and they're a psychologist, we're going to count it.
Sure, and it's not like you're giving 7 hours, you're offering one.
Right. We're talking about an hour here.
Right.
I don't
Anybody
have
else
a
on
problem
other
with it. I
comments?
was just kind of curious on how it would work.
And the good thing is it even becomes right now. I'd be a little bit over my skis if I just said I'm going to accept the hour, or give the hours right now, because of the way everybody's rules are written around continuing education. Hopefully these standardized CE rules will clear up a lot of that, but I know the standardized rules will clear up the fact that if an agency gives a presentation, you can count that as continuing education. So that'll quell that little question if the standardized CE rules get adopted by everyone.
Ms. Smith?
I know, fly in the ointment. So I just wanted to ask, how many of these will you be giving a year? And theoretically, could a licensee just attend these and get all their ethics hours that they need for the renewal? How
think
many can
Should
they?
make that a carve out for LMFT specifically, Daryl, that these are 10-1. So if they watch one of these, they get 10 CEs at LMFT. Just for LMFT though, that's it.
Look, that's what happens when you do that. That's what happens.
No vote for him.
Hmm,
I
right.
hadn't thought of that, Janine. So I
Yeah.
don't know. How do y'all want me to handle that?
I
'Cause
think
I'm
one
fine with
per
giving,
year.
I'm fine with giving a certain amount, but if we do these for a year, I don't know if I want to count that they get 4 ethic hours just by attending this. How do you guys feel about that? How many are you going to do?
How about
a
one
year?
per year? You're entitled to one per year, even if you attend all 4. Every year that it makes me think of the agencies that require the annual sexual harassment surveys. When I was at the Health Science Center, I memorized them. I mean, so I already knew what I was going to see. And I'd imagine you all have had similar experiences. So I think that your point is really well made. And I'm glad you thought about that. But if you did one ethics credit for the entire year, then that prevents somebody from signing in.
The problem is I have no way of doing that.
Of tracking it? Of tracking it?
Yeah,
Oh.
because I mean, Janine might show up to my February 28th one and then not to the others, whereas Dr. Taylor may show up to the one in June.
Oh, Dr. Taylor would show up to all of them.
But do they register for them?
They do, but what I'm trying to set it up to where I can automate it, because I can set up an automated email that goes out and says, hey, here's your 1 hour of credit for continuing education. to anybody that attends. You can set it to where only attendees get it. That's what I'm trying to do, because I don't want to have to send out 400 and 500 emails after every one. If that's what I'm gonna have to do, I don't want to do this at all. That's way too much time on my hands.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how many of these lunch things are you gonna provide in a year? And will we be giving somebody a credit for every single one they
That's a good
attend?
idea.
So
Well,
that's
You know,
why I'm
I think
why I'm
it's,
asking.
I think it's fine to give them credits for each one they attend. I mean, this is not like Pokemon. I don't think everyone's going to try to collect all 4 of them and get like a stamp or something, you know, like, I mean, and they're going to have different material. They're not necessarily going to be the same thing every time.
I'm
And
just asking the question. You know,
Anybody else?
you could say it's not for ethics and then
Oh.
just say it's continuing education credit.
For what it's worth, the lawyers have no limit on the hours that they can get for online CLE work.
and rules change. I mean, rules change regularly. So, you know, we might have one next month and then we might have one in December and we might be covering, you know, a new rule change. It seems unfair that somebody can't count both of those.
And Daryl, then you could select your topics, judiciously so that you're not being overly repetitive. That makes
What,
sense.
what we're using it as is a way to update people on what the member boards have done and what the council's doing and what we're all looking at.
Sounds like good customer service.
Yeah, I don't repeat. My goal is not to repeat topics.
could we, this is even more confusing. Could we allow them to count 1 hour of ethics and all the other ones they attend are just CEU? No, there's no way. to
Not
do
without
that.
making my life difficult.
Well, that's what
hiring
I
somebody.
don't want.
Dr. Cartwright, did I see your hand go up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I was reading the responses and the questions, and I thought it was really informative. I think you could learn something different in all of those. That's very valuable, respectively. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I agree with Dr. Taylor.
So do you need a motion of any kind?
Yeah, I'd like a motion and a vote just so that I know I can count. What I can count an hour and whether y'all want it to be ethics or just plain straight continuing education.
Is there a motion on the floor? Anyone? Wanna make
Chair
one?
Pacheco, I would like to make a motion to accept or to allow the Daryl, how do you want me to phrase this, Daryl?
Allow staff to award 1 hour of continuing education credit for attendees.
For ethics. Yeah, what Daryl said plus ethics. That's fine.
So moved, right?
Annoyed
I'll
me.
second that.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. To do what he said. I pointed. Daryl, will you repeat the motion?
The motion is for staff to be able to award attendees 1 hour of ethics credit for attending these seminars.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your hand. Oh, I don't raise, I forgot.
You can
Janine?
vote, Madam Chair.
Really?
There's no rule against chairs voting or not voting.
Okay, any against, same sign? I think I saw the majority in favor and 1 abstaining. 1 no vote. Thank you.
And just so we're clear, everybody, I don't want this to be a contractual obligation that I have to do 4 every year. I'm just saying if we do these, obviously if life gets in the way and we can only put 2 or 3 on a year, that's all we can do. But just so y'all know, I'm not saying by God, we'll do 4 every year.
Thank you. And as a side comment, when we started the council, we talked about, taking it out. This was pre-COVID, taking our work out to communities that are not so well served or have a shortage of mental health professionals. Then COVID hit, we couldn't go anywhere, barely to the grocery store. So this is a nice way of reaching our constituency and our stakeholders. It's a great idea. Thank you. I believe that we talked about pulling item 3L to take place at the end of the meeting in closed session. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I'd like to, I think you said that was my prerogative. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then I'd like to continue on to 3M, please.
3M is just the preliminary findings that the Texas Workforce Commission Civil Rights Division has made in response to our recent personnel policies and procedures audit. I think we actually got a very good audit so far. I'm actually working on the response, making the changes, both the required and the best practices changes that they recommended. I'm in the process of making those changes now. So hopefully we should, excuse me, we should be completely in compliance with the preliminary findings that you have here by your May meeting.
Thank you. It looks like it's, now we normally take a break around 10, but in the interest of time, if you're willing, I'd love to pursue let me think, the rulemaking for social work before Dr. Brumley has to go to his course. Is that all right with you? Okay, what agenda item is that, Daryl?
It's going to be 8 on the
Okay, so
agenda.
Item 8 on the agenda. Wow, it looks long. Okay. Do you want to walk us through items starting with 8A and then 8B? And now what we've done in the past, for those of you who are new, is we know you've had an opportunity to review the rules. And so the motion is usually to pull anything that you'd like to change and if not, accept them as a group. So think about that for a minute. It makes the meeting a lot more expedient. So Daryl, do you want to walk us through the major changes or recommend?
Sure. Let me, the very first one under A, which is the recognition as a council approved supervisor in the supervision process.
Mhm.
That is a rule. If you vote to propose it, you need to vote to propose it contingent upon adoption of the same rule. If you'll notice, you got that same rule. One version is up for adoption, and then we're going to turn around and propose a change to that same rule
So you're saying those need to be
immediately.
separate motions?
I would on this one, I would have this a separate motion to propose it.
All right.
Most of these rules, let's see here. A lot of these are just simple cleanup rules. There's a lot of the stuff in the social work rules that we're no longer doing. And so this is really just cleanup. This is not really a controversial thing. We didn't get public comments on this. So
Okay.
it's not a controversial matter.
So
And the way I would phrase the motion is we move to propose the changes to 781.404, contingent upon adoption of the same rule under the subsection below. And that it's just as simple as that.
so let's get the motion and then we can have discussion, especially from folks representing the social work board, if there's anything in particular they want to point out. And so may I have a motion to adopt the proposed amendments from 781.404 to 781.514 as submitted on the agenda, approval pending adoption. Is that right? Did I get it right?
I think you said 514.
It says that at the, oh, that's the repeal, sorry, up to 781.501. Do I have the wrong numbers? That looks right. Did I get them right, Daryl?
No, we are proposing the changes to 781.404 that are underlined, not highlighted, but underlined, contingent upon the board adopting the changes identified in 781.404 under subsection B.
Okay, wow.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept those modifications as presented by the Texas State Board of Social Workers Examiners.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Do I hear a second? I saw
Second.
your hand. Dr. Taylor, is there any discussion? Mr. Bumley?
No discussion or no input from me.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approves unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
And Madam Chair, the remainder of the proposed rules are the changes, the social work board's implementation of the Standardization Committee's recommendations for continuing education. That's a mouthful, I know, but
Those are the
We're-
proposed amendments, correct?
yes, these are the proposed changes, and the social work, what's happening here is the Standardization Committee came out with a standardized CE rule,
Mhm.
and the social work board is taking those recommendations and recommending that they be implemented now. You'll see the same thing in the MFT board rules here in a minute.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the proposed amendments as submitted?
I so move, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify, oh, is there any discussion? I always forget that part. I'm so sorry these things are taped. I must look like a dope. Thank you. No discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Thank you. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I think you look great, but I now have to ask myself, what did I wear last time? Because
Oh,
they're recorded, and so someone's going to think I only own one suit.
yeah, I actually thought the same thing when I put on this jacket this morning. You know what? Fortunately, all you can see is the top of my shoulder. Thank
If it
you.
makes you feel any better, I keep my bow ties in a line in order for this meeting, so I don't repeat my bow tie. So I too think the same thing.
Wow.
I knew we'd find something in common, George, at some
Okay,
point.
we might- In this group, we might need to talk about OCD next.
Look, I've seen how many people view our videos on YouTube. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well, it's better than the Mosquito Association that has 0 views.
Well, for those of you that are new, I once flashed my house slippers. Now I'm in the office, but this has happened. They were really cute, I might add. All right, so we are on I've lost my place.
8B.
8B. Consideration and adoption of rule changes to the minutes, the qualifications for licensure, the recognition as a council approved supervisor in the supervision process, documentation of qualifications for licensure and examination requirement. Unless anyone has an objection or there's some discussion about anything in particular here, I'd love for the motion to reflect approval of items, the items B1 through 5. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull from or discuss before I entertain that motion?
Madam Chair, hearing no exceptions, I'd like to make a motion for item B as written in the agenda, items I through 5, in Roman numerals, my favorite personally being IV, to be approved.
Great. Do I hear a second? Dr. Cartwright, all in favor signify by raising your hands. And Dr. Taylor, I didn't see a hand. You okay? I wasn't trying to force the issue. You're free to object. Any discussion? And then I think the motion passes. And that having been said, then it's 10:17. Let's take a 5-minute check your email break, and we could reconvene at what, 10:20. What does your computer say?
10:17.
I love having Brenda right next to me over here, and we are not passing notes. Okay, so we did last time. 10:17. Can we break until 10:22? 5 minutes, maybe 10. What do you think?
Can we just come back at 10:25? Just a good round.
Let's do that. Thanks. Let's have a break. Thank you so much. Do I need to say something to?
Well, we're just in recess until 10:25.
I thought I had to turn something off for some reason.
I will.
Welcome back to the February 1st meeting of the Texas. No, I did it. The Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. It's 10:27 and I'll call the meeting back to order. We will return to item 4, rulemaking. Is that where we were?
Yes, ma'am. That's where we would revert back to after
Right.
completing the social work rules.
And we have some proposed rule changes under 4A. 882.2, 2.22, and 4.20. Is there anything that you'd like to bring to our attention in particular, Daryl?
No, I don't think any of these changes are controversial, difficult to understand.
Anybody else? I know that everyone receives their packets. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve all items under 4A. Do I have
Madam Chair, I'd love to propose that we accept all items as stated in the agenda for 4A.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. A second. Thank you, Dr. Cartwright. All in favor signify by saying aye. Raising your hands. I see that Ms. Rogers and Ms. Smith are not back yet. Neither is John. So do we have enough votes?
Make sure we got a
One.
quorum here.
Yes? Okay, I see Daryl nodding, so.
Yeah.
Great, the motion passes not unanimously, by majority vote. 4B.
The
Right.
only rule in this batch that I would point out that we received quite a bit public comments on is the 882.37, the COVID-19 vaccine passport. That is a statutory requirement. That rule is, so there's
no way.
I don't know what you can do on the discussion on that. Yeah, statutorily it's required.
Was there anything in particular that you want to point out, whether or not it's anything, any consensus or anything that really jumped out at you that we should know about?
Some of the rules, there was some confusion about what the rule actually did when you read the comments. Some of them thought we were mandating. It was a COVID vaccine mandate. It is not. It is the legislature saying we do not want people denying services to someone
In need.
in need simply because they refuse to show proof of vaccination, or I think I can't remember what all it said.
Sure.
But
So we're going to rely on people to take their own precautions.
yes, yeah, it does not preclude licensees from using regularly accepted safety protocols in office, masks, that type of thing. So plexiglass, all that is still.
1 to 8, unless someone would like to pull something.
Madam Chair, I'd love to make a motion for the acceptance of items 4B as stated in the agenda 1 through 8.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item 4B? Hearing none, all in favor signify by raising your hands.
Aye.
I
Aye.
see Asia raising her hand. That's very clever,
We actually,
Rogers.
Ms. Rogers, we can't. You'll have to be on screen before you can vote on something. The way the law, now that the governor's, there we go. Okay.
Thank
never
you.
mind.
Looks like by unanimous vote. I don't see John, but I see everybody else. The motion passes unanimously. Item 5, from the Texas State Board of Marriage and Family Therapists.
The only thing I would point out here, Madam Chair, is 5A 2 through 8 are all changes needed. The MFT board is recommending, they're going with the Standardization Committee's recommended language on continuing education with a few minor changes unique to their board. And these rules reflect their will in that regard. So
Right.
this, like the social work board did, now the MFT board is proposing changes to bring its continuing education rules into alignment.
And that's everything
I
under
have
item
thanks for
A?
that.
Is that right? Was that everything under item A? A1?
A1 doesn't have anything to do with continuing education. It's something that the board felt like was needed. A practice standard rule.
Okay, Ms. Smith, Mr. Francis, any comments or remarks?
No, I don't know that anything is necessary. Had lots of conversation around it, so I think we're good.
Great. And all those in favor of approving item.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept 5A 1 through 8, please.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. I'm sorry. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes by majority vote. And that's only because I can't see Ms. Rogers just yet. But we're all good. Item B, 5B.
The only thing I would point out here, Madam Chair, is B2 is a pretty significant change. It affects the licensure, the exam approval process that we talked about earlier under my report up there. We are going to significantly streamline that, where folks don't have to submit everything needed for licensure just to get exam approval. There, we're gonna streamline that process where they can just attest or declare that they have the qualifying degree and a few other things. Those will be kill questions. In other words, if they don't answer it correctly, it won't let them get the exam approval. And then the exam approval code will be sent out to them so that they can go sit for that exam, and they're not waiting on us, which is what has caused a lot of those elevated numbers for MFTs in the past. So this should greatly streamline that process for them. And this is
Madam Chair, I just like to say thank you from the MFT board on this and all that worked on it. Just great enhancements and improvements. So just sincerely thank you for this one.
Sure, thank you. Then do I hear a motion to approve?
I would be honored to make a motion to approve item 5B as stated in the agenda 1 and 2.
And I will be happy to second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Kill questions, huh? Never heard that before. All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. But I think that one was unanimous, wasn't it? Yes,
Was.
thank you. Thank you.
I will say, with the adoption of that rule, now psychology is the outlier here. They are going to be the only board that still requires a lengthy process where you have to apply, get approval for the exam, and then go sit for it. Everybody else is going to have a much more streamlined process than what psych has. I will say this, it is not TSPUP's fault. Stakeholders, if you're listening, it is not the psych board's fault. It is ASPPB. I have talked with them about it. They own the exam, and they have not, I just hadn't been able to talk them into doing what y'all are all doing, what the other boards are
Daryl, I
doing.
prefer we blame Dr. Cartwright since it's his first day and just throw him under the bus.
Wow.
Make it a second. Everybody second.
Could you remind me, since I'm acronym phobic, what that ASCPB stands for?
Sure. They're the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards.
Okay.
And the thing is, all these private organizations own the national exams.
Sure.
ASPPB owns psych, AMFTRB owns it for the MFTs, and so on and so on. So they have a large degree of control over who sits for their exams.
Well, we will continue to lead by example. If there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Did we already do that? 5B? No.
Yes.
Yeah, you're done with MFT. Now
Sorry,
we're on-
I'm on
yeah.
6, sorry.
We're on to psych.
Do I hear a motion to approve item 6A?
There's one issue we need to talk about on 6A that there's a problem with 6A from the council's perspective.
The temporary license?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This rule, what we were originally encountering when this issue came up was the way the current rule works is if you get a temporary license, before you can use your practice authority, you have to send an email to the board, and say, here are the dates I'm going to be doing this, get approval for it. That is extremely time intensive for staff if you're doing that each time. And because things change, depositions get changed. So now you got to come back and submit reapproval. That is a gigantic pain to do that. And so we wanted to move away from that to where it was just, you get a lump sum amount of time, and you're good to practice within that amount of time, and you don't need to report to us. So we went to the psych board on this, and one of the things they did make some changes to ease the burden on staff on this and on the licensee. But one of the things that came out of it was they also imposed the requirement that let's see, where is it here, Patrick?
It's the last item.
The last one, it's subsection J. That has never existed in the rule before. And basically what it says is if you've had any disciplinary history within the previous 10 years, then you're not eligible for a temporary license. Now, here's the problem why that sends up a red flag for us. Number one, we've never had a problem with this issue before. So I'm like, okay, why are we doing this? Because we really don't have any kind of evidence to support the need for it. It does have an anti-competitive impact because think about this. If you're coming under this rule, you're already licensed in Virginia or wherever in another jurisdiction. And if that state says, look, you were in trouble in the past, but now you're okay, you got a clean bill of health, you're in good standing, they let you practice there, but we're not going to let you practice here if that occurred within 10 years. And it could be some little ticky-tack violation like continuing education or something like that. Because we never had that problem before and now that requirement is being imposed, I don't know how to justify that. To me, that feels like a restraint of trade that we don't really need, that we can't justify. And because of that, I'm recommending that you actually kick this rule back for a little bit more discussion with the psych board. But it's
Mr.
y'all's call.
Bielanowitz, what are you thinking?
I'm fine to bring it back and kick it around some more.
Dr. Cartwright?
Yeah, we can discuss it back on the board.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a question for them because this was approved by the board to come to BHEC. And so I would be interested to know what the board thought about it because they approved it to send it to us to approve. So I'm curious about what the discussion or how did the board come around that?
Do we know?
I can tell you that the board has lately we've kicked around a lot. I am very when we deal with anti-competitive stuff and we have the opportunity to kick it around again, I would like the opportunity to kick it around again.
Right, to just, yeah, I know that that's one of the purposes of having public members on this board in the first place. Good point. Dr. Cartwright, did I see you start to say something? I think you're on mute. There you go.
I was just saying, like this proposal was prior to me being on the psych board, so I'm not as familiar with the discussions around it within the board itself. But and if we need to discuss it more, then that we can do so in the next meeting. We have one coming up on the 10th, so we can.
Why don't we postpone this, ask the site board to take a second look and Daryl, maybe voice some of your concerns through John and Mark. We certainly want to tread very, very carefully if there's an anti-competitive effect.
Do we need a motion for that, Daryl, or is that good enough?
We're not taking any action on it, so.
Yeah, we're not taking any action on it. I'll just say that, it wasn't voted to be proposed, so I'll just take it back to the psych board and we can revisit it there.
Would it facilitate things for us to say we'd like to kick this back with a formal motion? Are you fine?
I don't think it's needed, to be honest with you. I mean,
Sounds-
there's.
I'm here. I'll be gaveling that meeting in, so I'll
Good.
pass on the message.
Thank you. Now let's go on to item 6B, and I know that we have some discussion on item B1. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion on this one. We've actually taken this up twice. We had a special meeting called the other day to revisit this item. We were asked by a state senator and a state representative to look at this again. We received a lot of public comment on this at our originally scheduled meeting 2 meetings ago. I want to, in terms of welcoming Dr. Cartwright to the board, he was part of making a big impact on this rule, making it better. And so we actually took down our original recommendation and replaced it. So in the packet, you'll see 2. In the second one, I think everybody it passed unanimously. When we revisited it, we had a split vote on it when we voted on it the first time. I think that unanimous vote on the improved version, it's clear that it is an improved version, and really big shout out to our professional members who, put this rule up on their shoulders and gave us something I think that was better than what we started with.
Thanks, John. And if I could just, if you guys don't mind, I'd love to just kind of give you a brief rundown of the amended changes, kind of the rationale behind those changes, and just the timeline of the events that John already kind of alluded to. But essentially, as John had mentioned, the original 46311 bill was voted down 5-4 in our November 4th psychology board meeting. Right after that, request was made to reconsider the withdrawal of the proposed rule by Representatives Ashby and Senator Nichols. Consequently, an emergency meeting was called for the 28th, a few days ago, and to reconsider that vote. Dr. Becker, Dr. Lambda, and myself, we worked for several weeks once we knew the urgency of this and kind of the timelines that we were running into. We worked on proposing changes to strengthen the originally proposed rule. And specifically, and I just figured to explain this to you guys, it might just help in terms of on your own respective boards if you come into these issues or wording issues, just things to think about. But specifically, the language and related to the term waiver in that rule. And again, 46311 relates to supervised experience, and specifically the section on the remedy for incomplete supervised experience. So the terminology or the term waiver as related to instead using remediation of a deficiency. So really, it was our goal to consider the legitimate concerns that we had in our constituents in the field of psychology that had related to our standards of practice, as well as the fundamental public safety concerns, while also considering legislature concerns about being flexible, not restricting practice, and making sure that applicants that are otherwise qualified as psychologists be able to remediate a deficiency and ultimately practice in our state. So some of the challenges with the originally proposed rule did allow for misinterpretation of the true intention of the proposal, and probably taken out of context a bit as well. So our true intention all along was to allow for a means of remediation for candidates who may come before the board and check the majority, if not all the boxes on their application, but have some sort of minor deficiency. So that as a board, we could comfortably say, here's how we get you to the minimum required standards of our profession. So we just felt that the word waiver could have maybe been taken advantage or taken out of context and possibly made vulnerable our standards of practice as psychologists and potentially cause unintended consequences. So by changing that waiver language to remediated efficiency, we feel that we added flexibility and increased accessibility to obtain licensure when petitioned under reasonable circumstances, while still holding to the minimum standards required in the existing licensure requirements. So we're not waiving or getting rid of requirements for licensure, but rather giving the board permission to have applicants come to the board to seek remediation for minor application challenges when reasonable. Another important part we pulled from the Minnesota law that we felt was important to add was that the remediation would not adversely affect the public welfare. So at that point, Dr. Becker filed a motion to amend the previous version of 46311. And then, as John mentioned, we unanimously passed the amended bill. And John, did you want to add anything to that, or?
No, you summed it up far better than I could. And again, I just wanted to acknowledge, I acknowledged it at our meeting, and I want to acknowledge it here. The work of our professional members ended up with a far better and far more elegant rule to address the needs that we attempted to address. So
yeah, and I want to thank the rest of the board members on the psychology board. Everybody did a great job, and the feedback that everybody gave, and all members, all public members. Thank you all. It was obviously a learning experience for many of us as well, but I think we came to the best conclusion possible. So we appreciate it and hope that we can go ahead and pass this now.
Great.
A motion coming?
Yes, sir.
I propose to pass 46311.
I'd like to second it.
Sounds great. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
are we taking these both individually, 1 and 2, or are we taking them together?
Ideally, we should take them. It would be great to take them together. Would you like to amend your motion to accept both, Dr. Cartwright?
I offer a friendly amendment to Dr. Cartwright's motion to accept 1 and 2.
I second.
Second. You've got a motion and a second to accept items 6B, 1 and 2 for the Board of Examiners of Psychologists. Is there any discussion?
The only discussion that I would have, Chair Canseco, is just to really applaud my colleagues on the psychology board. This was such a well thought out explanation and a rationale for your changes, and just a great job well done.
That's great to
Yes.
hear.
Thank you.
I hope it becomes a model for best practices throughout the country as other states continue to look at the example we're setting in the great state of Texas. All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. Looks great. Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys, and thanks.
Now,
to-
Madam Chair, can y'all now vote to actually adopt it? I think that was the vote to amend. Is that the vote to amend Dr. Cartwright's original motion?
It was consideration and adoption, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
what.
think you're actually correct, Mr. Spinks, because there was a friendly amendment, and I think the motion would have stood on the amendment, not the motion, the original motion itself.
Correct.
So do you need a second motion to adopt?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there such a motion?
The motion exists. We just need to take a vote on that motion.
Great, then let's move to all those in favor of adopting the rule changes proposed on the agenda. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, sorry, I meant raising your hand one more time. Great, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you all. It sounds like that our work as a council is really producing some fruits for the professions we represent across the state.
Chair Conseco, this is Brian Brumley. I'm gonna have to ask to be excused. I have to
Sure.
go to a class.
Thank you so much. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, what's next? 7A, let's do A and B together. This is the proposed rule changes and adoption of the proposed changes for the state board examiners of professional counselors. Daryl, is there anything in particular you want to bring forward or bring to our attention?
There's no proposed rules being brought by the counseling
Oh,
board
that's
right
right.
now.
Sorry. So
Just- Yeah, 7B. The only thing I would point out is just a reminder that and this is to the stakeholders, not to the council, but these changes will, if adopted, will allow LPC associates to own their own business. It will not allow independent practice. Get that out of everybody's head right now. What the vote we're about to take on is just ownership of business, and it makes some changes to supervisor responsibility. It limits supervisor responsibility to just the act of supervising the counseling practice, not all aspects of your life as an LPC associate. So I want to make that clear. And then I also want to remind everybody that if the council does vote to adopt this, stakeholders, remember, this will not go into effect until 20 days after we file the rules with the Secretary of State. That typically happens within 30 days of a meeting, I'll just tell you. Or it typically happens within 7 to 10 days after a meeting. So you're going to have to watch the Texas Register, but I feel pretty confident in saying these rule changes would be put into effect within 30 days of this meeting.
And to clarify, for people who aren't necessarily professionals, social workers are in these fields, what is the difference between practicing and owning the business?
Well, you can own your own practice, but if you have to be under supervision, then your supervisor is still responsible and still has the ability to direct and control the delivery of services that you provide. It may be Daryl Spink's counseling services, but if Dr. Taylor is my supervisor, he has complete access to my records. He gets to tell me who I can and cannot, what types of services I'm competent to deliver. If he's like, you don't know what you're doing in this area, you can't do it. I don't care that you own your own business. And that's it. That's the end of that discussion.
Okay.
He's the supervisor. So that's the difference.
Thank you for the
We have to talk
clarification.
about your remediation plan, Daryl.
It'd be a long document for me.
And Dr. Taylor, can you go over how this affects an LPC being able to collect their own money or having their supervisor versus having their supervisor collect the money and then give the amount to the licensee?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, basically the way it's set up is that an associate cannot receive monies directly for service. So they cannot receive a credit card payment or a check made out to them or their name. it has to be made out to their supervisor or whatever business they work for. And then they are then in turn remunerated via 1099 fee split or a W-2 salary or something like that, but they don't receive the money directly. So this would allow them essentially to have their own simple practice account or Theranost account or whatever system and receive credit card payments directly in the name of their own LLC or their own DBA or whatever they're choosing to do. They would still be under the supervision of the same supervisor. That person would still be doing the same job that they normally do. It's just instead of the money going to the supervisor to then go to the associate, it just goes directly to the associate.
Thank you for that explanation. I just wanted that on the record.
Thank you. Then do I hear a motion to approve items
7B.
7B, 1, 2, 3?
I would so move, Chair.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your hands. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.
Real quick, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. That was about a year's worth of work for the LPC board. It was a stellar example of input from our stakeholders, from lengthy discussion between committees and the board and up here at BHEC. A lot of work went into that. So thank you for your support on the passage of the rule. I think it's just a textbook example of how the system works when it works well. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And this was definitely by far, I think, one of our most controversial issues that we've had to tackle. And so I was very proud of my colleagues on the LPC board, and BHEC as well, just the way that we navigated it. And I'm excited for associates. There's about, I think, 3,000 associates that in 30 days can choose to start their own businesses if they'd like. And I do hope that increases access to mental health care in a state that desperately needs greater access.
Right. Not to mention business opportunities for the rest of the state and to support those practices. So thank you. That's great. On item 8, this looks extensive. So we have rule changes in items A, 1, 2, 7. This is not-
Madam Chair, we've already done this. This is the
Yeah,
social work
that's what I was
rules.
just thinking. Wait, we did that before. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 9, the ad hoc standardization committee.
I'll be brief, and then some of the committee members that are here can jump in.
Okay.
I mean, you've already seen the first fruits of the standardization committee coming out in the CE rules. I mean, those are. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see all the boards adopt roughly the same language, which will help staff tremendously. I think it'll also help licensees because this new standardized rule, it creates one-stop shopping for continuing education rules. No longer do you have to hunt through 4 or 5 rules to figure out what your requirements are. You go one place, that's it. And it'll look the same as every other board, which is helpful for staff. So I think we made a lot of progress there. I will say, I mean, we've got several other issues. We're trying to tackle supervision now. I don't know how that's going to go. That's a harder nut to crack, in my opinion, but we're working on it. I will say I'm probably going to need to slow down a little bit on the standardization committee during the first part of this year because of the strategic plan and the LAR. That's going to eat up a significant amount of my time and energy. So I'll probably need to slow this committee down a little bit because this is a hard committee for staff to keep up with. It's just so dang hard to do. But I'll let some of the other committee members talk now if they've got anything they want to report.
Right. Now, who were the other committee members?
Dr. Taylor's on it, Ms. Smith. Dr. Fletcher was on it. And I think that was it.
That's something I wanted to, the first thing I want to bring up is if we can vote or just request or ask that Dr. Carey be added to that committee if you'd like to join to replace Dr. Fletcher.
You want to volunteer him?
Yeah, I'm just going to put him on there if I can.
I think you just did.
Okay, it's done. Welcome to the Committee on Standardizing Things, Dr. Cartwright.
I'm excited, Dr. Taylor.
I want to bring up the fact that you have big shoes to fill, by the way. I greatly enjoyed working with Dr. Fletcher. I found her to be very pleasant and agreeable and very realistic and pragmatic in what we were trying to accomplish. So I appreciate working with her. I hope you bring the same joy to the group as she did.
I'm my best.
It has been a wonderful experience, I'll tell you. I've never had more polarizing views come together in one room that actually were able to agree or at least politely disagree.
Caution, you might be elected to office if you keep saying that, but go ahead.
I really have enjoyed the process, though. I mean, we come to some impasses from time to time, but I think by and large, we've been able to overcome most things that we have tried. Now, granted, we have gone to the lowest fruit first, but it has been enjoyable, and I look forward to what else we might be able to accomplish together.
Thank you.
I'm just glad that was recorded. So now we can really say, remember when you said that? When we're arguing again. So thanks for saying that out loud. No, in all actuality, Daryl, Mr. Spinks, I think that it's great to kind of slow this down. That's not going to be a problem at all. We need to make sure that we are, taking staff into consideration. So we're at your bidding, and getting information that we can look at to really be able to discuss when we all meet that will be helpful. So do it to your schedule.
Thank you. I too am a believer, and I'd rather do it good, do a great job than do a fast job. So appreciate that advice, and you're letting us know about your workload. And
And
thanks to
remember,
both of you.
we're not
and
under
Dr.
the gun on anything. So
Right.
we're totally at our own schedule on this. So
Thank you all for serving. Serving on this board is demanding, and serving on an extra committee is that much more demanding. So thanks to each of you who volunteered for any committee up to now. If we're done with the standardization committee, then let's move on to item 10. The ad hoc work group that was going to talk about educating licensees on scamming and best practices for avoiding scams. Boy, this could not be more timely. I returned a call from RoboKiller by mistake. What a mess.
Dr.
I
Taylor.
don't have anything on this one.
Oh,
Anybody?
Dr. Taylor and I have begun discussion about when we do an LPC specific insights over the lunch hour, that this is one of the first topics that we want to address. Knowing that the other boards will be able to receive CE credit, while it will be presented by the LPC board, the subject matter will be applicable to across all the boards.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything else on item 10? Okay, let's move on to item 11. That's consideration of licensing and disciplinary members from member boards.
There are
Pat-
two
yeah, Pat-
cases. Sorry, Daryl.
I'm going to tell you to take this one.
Oh, there are two cases for you to look at, and we'll just take them in order. The first one is Jennifer Bullard. There's an order there for you to consider. I would ask, though, that before you consider and vote on that, we ask it and see if she's in attendance, to give her an opportunity, a few minutes to address the council if she so chooses. If she'll raise her hand, use the raise hand function, we can maybe move her in.
Hey, Patrick, I think I worked both of these. Do I need to recuse myself?
Were you on the ISC for both of them? You were, yeah. Then we do need to probably recuse you from.
Do I need to sign out or just hang out?
You just hang in. Just don't vote or influence the vote. What I can give you a brief synopsis, but essentially this went to the State Office of Administrative Hearings. They had a hearing where she did not show up. And so therefore we brought this and everything entered into evidence at the time. The SOA issued a default order, sent it back to the board, and the board voted and approved this recommended final decision and order that you have in your board in your council packet, and it's number 1 in that for you to vote on and approve and ratify. So I don't see her.
There is a Jennifer on the participant list. If that is Jennifer Bullard, please use the raise hand feature. You can slide your cursor down to the bottom of the screen and you'll get a list of, I don't know what to call that, but a little ribbon at the bottom. It has raise your hand. If you are Jennifer Bullard and would like to say something, please raise your hand now.
Or if Ms. Bullard has counsel on the attendee list, please raise your hand if you're the attorney representing her.
We weren't provided any notice that she was going to, and she didn't show up to the SOA hearing or to the board where they considered this. So the only other issue I would look at is there's one phone caller. Can we ask that person, Daryl, if that's her?
List 713 at the top of the list.
Caller, could you please identify yourself? *6 to unmute yourself. Caller, if you're Jennifer Bullard, would you please unmute yourself?
I'm not Jennifer. This is Dr. Armand.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anything. Should we proceed?
Yeah, I think we can proceed. I don't see that she's in attendance. So I can try to field any questions you might have on it, but we have a recommended order for your consideration. If you'd like to vote on it, you can now, or I can try to answer any questions. But I can give more background, but that's fairly straightforward, where the allegations are she was having a dual and sexual relationship with a client.
Right, and you all have that in your board packets under item 11A. I'm assuming you've already looked at it. Is there any questions for Patrick? Patrick, do you need a motion?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Do I have a motion to move forward in the matter of Ms. Bullard as identified in 11A to proceed as recommended?
Madam Chair, I would offer.
Go ahead.
I'll second Ms. Smith.
Ms. Smith, what's your motion, please?
I make a motion to
As
to
recommended.
adopt. Yes.
Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Hands. The motion passes not unanimously, sorry, by majority, excuse me. Item B, 11B, Patrick?
Again, Aaron Williams is another case that's before you that was reviewed at the LPC board, and there's a recommended order for your consideration. If Mr. Williams is in attendance, I'd ask that he use the raise hand function so we can give him an opportunity to address the council if he'd like to. This case went to SOA as well. A motion for summary disposition was filed and it was granted, and so it issued a PFD proposal for decision recommending the revocation of his license because he was convicted of, I think, sexual abuse of a minor or sexual assault of a child. And so the LPC board recommended adopting the proposal for a decision from SOA. And the final order that's in front of you guys is to recommend adopt the PFD and recommend the revocation of his license.
Do I hear a motion?
There's
to
one
approve?
there's one new phone caller, Chair. I'm sorry, that looked like just joined. And it's also
Yes,
713
that.
that phone number.
If Mr. Williams or his counsel are attending and would like to speak, please use the raise your hand feature. Again, you slide your cursor down to the bottom of the screen and you'll see a raised hand. And then would the caller at 713-909-6282 identify himself or herself? One more time, caller, you're on mute. What are the directions to get off of mute?
*6.
*6. Okay.
Okay.
I think we're
Hearing
good.
nothing.
Madam Chair, in the absence of hearing nothing, I make a motion to approve the recommended action as provided to us.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor of approving the motion as recommended in the item 11B, please signify by raising your hands. Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimous, by majority, sorry. Very sad, very serious. Thank you so much. Item 12. This is not the item that we are, is this the item that we're moving to executive session? No.
No,
it's
ma'am.
not. Okay, a discussion regarding whether to seek the Attorney General's opinion about the council's authority to readopt or repeal a rule of statutorily required rules if the rules in question as governed by the occupations code. Daryl, can you elucidate a little bit?
Yeah. Patrick and I are already in 2023 and 2024. We're going to have to begin what's called the rulemaking review. It's something you have to do every 4 years, and we're slated to begin in 2023. One of the things Patrick and I were talking about when we started looking at this is what do we, given how BHEC is structured, that's rules that touch upon things like licensing standards, continuing education, those types of rules have to originate with the member board. We cannot initiate a change at the council level. We got to thinking, what are we going to do if we run into a situation where we have a member board rule that we feel like either doesn't have statutory authority or it violates one of the things that BHEC has to look at, anti-competitiveness, it's not administratively consistent, or it violates some good governance concern. What do we do if the member board says, well, we don't want to make a change to that, but the council is like, or the governor's office tells us you got to make a change to it? What are we going to do? Because we can't make that change at the council level. Only the member board can. And so Patrick and I got to talking about it, and I thought probably the best approach is for us to now seek an AG opinion, get something on the record that says, here's what we think your authority is. And the reason I know some people may be thinking, well, why are you doing this now? This seems like way before the rulemaking. The reason I'm suggesting it now is because if we do it now, we'll have one legislative session between us and the time we have to begin rulemaking, which any problems that the AG identifies, we could have a chance to correct it in that legislative session. If we wait until the rulemaking begins, it'll be too late. We may find ourselves stuck in a situation that we don't want to be stuck in. And so that's why we're bringing this to you now. I know it seems early, but if the AG comes back and says, well, you either have this authority or you don't have it, we need to know where we stand, so that if the legislature wants to make a change to it, or we want to request a change to it, we can put that in our strategic plan and we can take it before the legislature in the 88th session. Because if we miss this opportunity, we won't have another shot at it before we find ourselves in a pickle. So that's
On
why
the
we're bringing this
contrary,
to
I
you.
don't think it sounds early at all. I think it sounds like you're preparing us. I think sounds wonderful. We certainly don't want to be caught unaware, especially since we've worked so hard to anticipate what's been coming before this, even in the planning session before the council was formed. There's so much thought has gone into this. I appreciate that. Any discussion, or may I hear a motion to approve?
I would offer that I know that there's a lot of first-year law students on this Zoom, and I would offer that this would be an excellent topic for your law journal article that you're looking to write in the fall semester. So research it and help us out a little.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation as submitted, the authorizing the council's authority to seek an attorney general opinion about readopting and repealing rules as described in this.
Madam Chair, I would offer a motion to seek that, please.
Thank you. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying, raising your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Do I say unanimously if Brian's not here anymore?
Yeah,
Yes, 'cause
it's
it's
unanimous.
unanimous of those-
Unanimous of the quorum present.
Right,
Yeah,
okay, good.
for the members present.
Okay, any reports from it's item 13, sorry, regarding current or future issues that might impact our function, our regulatory functioning in particular?
No,
I'm
but Madam Chair, I am interested. Daryl, do we have any update on the counseling compact? I know that's kind of been in progress for a while.
I haven't heard anything. Daryl, have we had any update on that?
No, ma'am. And we won't really until the 88th legislature. We can't do anything. It has to be adopted by the ledge. So
Right.
really the ball is in like TCA's court. They're going to have to find somebody to carry that bill to get it done.
Okay. Before we take the next couple of things, looks like we're getting close to wrapping up. I'd like to remind the public that in order to be called on for public comment, you will have to use the raise hand feature, and we'll take them in order of hand raising. So you might want to start doing that now. In the meantime, I certainly have learned a lot being on as chair of your board, and about every other month, I wonder if I should keep doing this, but working with you all has been truly a pleasure. And I think you're working an awful lot harder than I am. So thank you so much for everything that you do for us and for the service that you provide. I know it takes a great deal of time. I appreciate it.
And Madam Chair, let there be no doubt in your mind that you should continue and that your work is worthwhile and that we appreciate it and enjoy your company.
Thank you so much. There have been those months. I'm sure you've all had them.
Madam Chair, do we need to go into executive session for our last item?
Right, and that's item 3L. Is that correct? And I think that it would be smart maybe to recommend agenda items for the next council meeting after public comment, if that's all right. Daryl, is that all right with you?
I would recommend going into executive after public comment. That way the public doesn't have to hang around here until we get out of that,
Good idea.
if they don't want to.
Then let's take item 15, general public comments. Again, please use the raise your hand feature. Then we'll move to item 14, the recommendations before we go into executive council, if that's all right with everybody. All right with everybody? We're pushing through. Daryl, I'll rely on you to call on folks. Folks, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. For those members who are new, we generally do not respond. We listen and take it up afterwards if something arises that we feel needs our attention. Is that correct, Daryl?
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly correct. And Mr. Hyde will be the keeper of the time for us at 3
Timer.
minutes. Okay. All right, Ms. Martin, did you have public comments you wanted to make?
Yes, I did want to ask a question. I'm Sandra Martin. I do speak for Christian Counselors of Texas. And as we've been talking and looking among us at the CE recommendations, they're good ones, but it's not clear in the documentation whether, for example, if there's a 5 credit hour limit on this particular kind of CE, is that per event? Is that per year? Or is that renewal period? That's not clear. It would seem obvious to me that it's per event, but it's not made clear, and you might want to clear that up a little bit. It would be very helpful. Other than that, just thank you for your hard work, for your study, your research, for the money is lost by counselors so many hours of clients are lost by counselors on your committees, your boards, and so on and so forth. We really appreciate your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Dr. Sarter, did you have public comments you wanted to give?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Spinks. Good morning. My name is Dr. Terry Ann Starter, and I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor, counselor educator, and the liaison to the BHEC for the Texas Counseling Association. I want to thank the council for all their hard work and efforts. Additionally, TCA would like to thank the Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors for including TCA's recommendations in the proposed rules for LPC associates. Furthermore, the comments made in today's meeting regarding this change were appreciated. TCA supports the change in 882.70 B and F, under which emergency temporary license will expire upon termination of the suspension or state disaster, whichever comes first, rather than 30 days after. Additionally, TCA expresses appreciation for the formation of the Rules and Standardization Task Force, and I am honored to have the opportunity to serve on this task force. Lastly, the Texas Association for Counselor Education and Supervision will be holding their midwinter conference in Arlington on February 24th and 25th. A few members of the Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors will be present. If any BHEC members are in the area and would like to attend, please reach out to me through Daryl. We appreciate and respect the hard work of our volunteer boards. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time, efforts, and dedication.
Thank you, Dr. Sarter.
Ms. Karsagi, did you have public comments you wanted to make?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Excellent. My name is Elisa Karsagi, and as you know, I've been speaking at these meetings since the inception of BHEC, and I, like many others, will continue to do so until the appropriate action is taken by this council to rectify the situation, resolve the multiple complaints, and hold Dr. Kim Arredondo responsible for her actions in these cases. It is incumbent upon this council to protect the public and to take immediate action, and we must again be persistent in urging you to uphold your mandate. It has been 1,158 days since this travesty began, and my infant sons, my youngest, still breastfeeding at the time, were placed in the sole custody of their father, who admitted on multiple occasions in court to placing loaded guns to his head and threatening us. This at the recommendation of your licensee, Dr. Kim Arredondo. The devastating impact that an unethical custody evaluation can have on the recipient, and in particular on survivors in cases of domestic violence, is horrifying. It has also been 581 days that my boys have had zero contact with me, despite a court order granting me visitation. And I would remind you that severe maternal deprivation is a component of emotional abuse, and that you are all mandated reporters. While I understand and acknowledge that this council has no control over court outcomes, what you do have is the authority to take action against your licensee for her deliberate actions, biased reporting, unethical behavior, and negligence in this case, and in so many others that have been brought and which continue to be brought to your attention. As I've said before, and I would say to you again today, dozens of concerned members of the public have on multiple occasions, many for years now, spoken up and urged this council to action. I want to believe that you are trying, and please know that every effort is appreciated, but more is still needed. Results are needed. Each speaker is taking time out of his or her day to be here because the severity of these situations, the level of concern, and the desperate need for your intervention leaves the public questioning how this can happen and why. On many occasions, I have heard discussion among you of progress in closing complaints, but I must once again impress upon you that closing a complaint is not the same as resolving and addressing those complaints, many of which involve very serious issues concerning the safety and well-being of children. Rather than measuring how quickly someone can be dismissed, I would urge you to please make the scale by which you judge your own efficiency to be the number of victims of domestic violence and their children that you directly help out of a harmful situation that your licensee has created. If your licensee is causing harm, then you not only have the right as a council tasked with providing public accountability to take action, but you have the duty to immediately intervene without forcing victims to suffer unnecessarily. Relying solely on judges to detect conflicts of interest and unethical behavior from your licensees, in particular when it is that judge who has appointed this person, is unconscionable, and it undermines the checks and balances meant to be in place. This council should be independent of the court and should work to prevent abuses in the system by its licensees, and that includes taking action against a biased licensee who has shown a callous disregard for child safety and depraved indifference in her report and testimony. Thank you always for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Karsagi.
Melinda Silber, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I have been following along with this whole Dr. Kim Arredondo, I guess mess up that's going on. It seems very strange to me that, well, I mean, I guess it's there's no smoke without fire. And yes, you had that hearing, I guess we're going back 2-3 months now, where you were looking into her or investigating her. And I've sent emails, try to phone, see how we follow up on what's going on with that. And it just seems like everything's kind of been swept under the carpet. Nobody's really answering to any of the questions. What's going on with it? Why haven't we heard anything? Why is this deposition still going on? Surely somebody can see that there is some issue here. So I guess my concern is, how do we go about following up on this? Right now, it's not just one case, it's multiple cases. A simple Google search will also show you that there are many cases that are in question. And once again, I'm going to just read your mission statement to you guys, that you are there by ensuring you're promoting the welfare of the people of Texas by ensuring the behavioral health services and social work practices are provided by qualified and competent practitioners who adhere to established professional standards. The mission is derived from the duly enacted statutes governing each regulated profession, as well as the law creating the council, and supersedes the interest of any individual or special interest group. Acting in accordance with the highest standards of ethics, accountability, efficiency, and openness, the council approaches its mission with a deep sense of purpose and responsibility, and affirms that the regulation of behavioral health services and social work practice is a public trust. The council assumes a proactive leadership role in this regard and pledges to carry out its mission in an efficient, innovative, collaborative, and equitable manner. And honestly, I don't feel as a citizen of Texas that my children are protected in the system, because you can have these rogue kind of therapists or doctors that aren't being held accountable, and life is short. Every day that I'm sorry
30 seconds.
Okay, life short. Every day that goes by, these kids' lives get more ruined, the dysfunction of not having a mom in their lives. And quite frankly, I think that we as the public deserve answers and action, and more so the children. And God has given you guys the ability to have this ability to go in and actually help lives of other people. And I trust you guys. I really hope that you can take, you guys are doing a good service. Please, can you go ahead and make action happen?
Thank you, Ms. Silver.
Ms. Vasari, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, thank you. My name is Elizabeth Vettery, and I've been coming to these meetings also since the inception of BHEC, which, crazy to think now, is before my daughter was conceived, and she's going to be a year old in a couple of days. And we've been coming repeatedly about this same issue with Dr. Kim Arredondo. And as we just heard from Ms. Silber, and we recall when BHEC was established, is that it was to keep accountable things that were not being held accountable before. And as the public, it's our job also to see the transparency and hold y'all accountable. And so we are going to keep showing up until we see some resolution, because we have not seen anything yet. We appreciate the steps that you have taken, that you've taken towards this complaint, the depositions, but we would like to see, as we just heard in the mission statement, open and transparency regarding what is happening here, and to see justice happen. That is why we're here. We want to see these things rectified that have not been rectified. And we are going to keep showing up because we know what it's like. We have our families, we have our kids, as we understand that you have, you know, I'm sure you have your own families and children as well, and concerns for them, and you would move heaven and earth to do anything for them. So we're going to keep coming to you and keep pleading for justice for all the children. I mean, we've heard it's been almost a year of my daughter's life already, and more so. And you can't imagine how long for all of these kids, not just Alyssa's kids, but all the other kids' lives that have been affected by Dr. Kim Arredondo's actions, the irreparable damage and the years of therapy and continued social work that they will need because of this damage. We urge you, do not delay any further with what you're doing, because it is each minute, each second of every day is causing further irreparable damage. And we are going to keep showing up. And we, again, appreciate you holding these meetings. We would like to see some publicity, some openness, transparency with regards to what is happening with these complaints. Where are we at? Do we need more information? What's going on? We want to see things moving, and we want to see justice happen. Again, thank you for allowing public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry.
Ms. Hartley, do you have public comments you'd like to give?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi. So I agree with everyone else that I've heard speak in public comments so far. I have heard about various cases from that same doctor, Dr. Arredondo. I don't know if I said that right, but I think I Arredondo. There we go. Sorry. And I actually met Alyssa Karsagi, who spoke first. I met her completely in an unrelated way to any children safety issues. And it terrifies me what happened to her, because I am now in the process of beginning a custody evaluation for my own children's safety from their abuser. And so far, they have had no protection, and I am terrified that what happened to her will happen to my children. And they've already had irreparable damage, let alone if I was taken from their lives for whatever reason. Not that that is necessarily going to happen. It's just a big fear of mine now because of what has happened to these poor children and this poor mother in this case. And I just really hope that, you know, we can get some answers and that some real investigating can actually be done into these complaints, which I have not seen evidence of. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley.
Ms. Arlette, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you for letting me speak today. I am also here in support of Alyssa Karsagi and to speak out against Dr. Kim Arredondo. No one has left anything to be said as far as I'm concerned. People have voiced all the concerns that I have and more. I've also been speaking at these since BHEC was first formed, and a lot has changed in my life since then too. I am now also a mother, and coming from that perspective, this is scary. It's not just something that is heartbreaking. It's terrifying. I'm a foster mom with 2 little ones now, and I see how much the court depends on one person's professional opinion to shape the entire outcome of children's lives. And I can't believe that it isn't being taken more seriously, that Dr. Kim Arredondo on many occasions has blatantly abused her power, and it needs to be looked into and needs to stop. And hopefully it's not too late for the Karsagi kids or the other kids, but it definitely isn't too late to prevent the damage that she may be doing to future families. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Arlette.
Ms. Kimball, did you have public comments you'd like to make?
I do. Just on the note, hearing this every time I listen and hear this, you know what? I'm moved to prayer for all of you as a committee. This is heavy duty, and all these folks speaking. God's will be done, and just for your wisdom and your strength to help out where you can. I know that you have limited power. I hope they understand that, but you got people praying for you all as you're fighting these big battles. On a higher note, I just want to thank you again for the LPC associate change that you voted in. Being an LPC associate, I have felt very underrepresented, and I've made that point every time I come to these meetings. So I want to thank you, and thank you, Chair, Madam Chair. Don't give up. Don't be discouraged. We all have hard days, but you're all doing a good work, and it's appreciated from your public. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kimball, and thanks for the encouragement.
Ms. Patrick, did you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
We can.
My name is Wanda Patrick, and I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak today. In a few short months, it will be 2 years since I filed my formal complaint against Dr. Kim Arredondo. It had appeared that the disciplinary hearing process had been moving forward. My concerns that the disciplinary action would not be taken, and that if any were taken, it would not be proportional to the egregiousness of her violations, has increased due to the fact that the disciplinary hearing, our disciplinary hearing, was held in October of 2021. It is now February of 2022 with no decision made or even any word from the disciplinary committee. In my case, the disciplinary committee even heard from an eyewitness who testified to the untruths in Dr. Arredondo's report, and to the fact that some of the witnesses she used were, at the very least, uncredible. Violations such as conflict of interest, inappropriate relationships, release of protected information, spoliation of evidence, lack of professional integrity, fraudulent opinions used as fact, and abuse of power are all serious violations. The destruction that Dr. Kim Arredondo has done not only to my family, but to so many other families may never heal. The children who have been permanently damaged by Dr. Arredondo's fraudulent social studies and custody evaluations deserve justice. Please do not let their pain and suffering be in vain. Nothing other than the revocation of Dr. Kim Arredondo's license is acceptable in circumstances such as these, and we will renew our insistence in the interest of protecting the public that the recommendation of the disciplinary review panel be proportionate to the severity of the harm that Dr. Kim Arredondo has caused. It is as a personal victim of Dr. Arredondo, I must insist that action be taken without any further delays. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patrick.
Bayla, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Hi, thank you. This is about my 5th time speaking. And as I've said.
What's your full name?
Oh,
Yeah,
Bayla
yes, ma'am.
Cutler. I'm sorry, Bayla
What was
Cutler.
it? Okay.
So it's about my 5th time speaking. And as I've said many times, my husband's a pediatrician, longtime pediatrician, graduated at Baylor here in Houston, Baylor Medical School. And I've gone to Rice, I'm master's from Rice University. We're not speaking as ignorant, but I've known Alyssa for more than 2 years. She is so fine. She's just, everybody loves her. She's kind. She babysits our grandchildren. She teaches children. I see her at work. I see her love. And it has been almost 2 years in June, since she has been even able to see her 2 little boys who were just taken away from her. And there's something very wrong going on, because they were given to a husband who it is recorded that he put a gun to his head many times. He keeps moving his locations. We have a feeling he moves because the school might even be putting in things like the children come abused. We have photographs of the children with bruises on them, things like that. And yet I don't understand what's going on. I feel so much pain for Alyssa because I know her and she is just the most gentle, wonderful person. And that's all. I can't keep adding more information because, as you know, I've spoken 5 times. I had it all written down and prepared those times. This time I'm just saying something should be done because it's cruelty to a mother not to see her children in almost 2 years, and to be, that they are given to a person who we believe is mentally abusive and who hits, who beats, and who does other things. And there should be some accountability for Kim Arredondo, who was the one who kind of put the wrong spin on everything. Thank you. I'm sorry that I have to be so repetitious. Thank you.
No need to ask forgiveness. You're certainly entitled to speak. Thank you, Ms. Bela.
Shanna, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
And we need your last name.
Okay, hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Shayna Balkan, and I too am speaking on behalf of Elisa Karsagi and the other mothers whose children have been taken away from them or who have lost rights to their own children in some form or fashion due to the unethical actions of Dr. Kim Arredondo. We're all of us who are speaking on Elisa's behalf are asking you to show some proof of progress in this case. It's been nearly 2 years since Elisa's seen her children, due in large part to the faulty report of Dr. Arredondo, who took away her diagnoses and gave other ones, and then each didn't even talk to the doctors, the 7 to 8, maybe even more at this point, qualified diagnosticians who have confirmed over and over and over that what Elisa's diagnoses were, and took her children away as a result. And now she hasn't seen her kids in over 2 years, which is nothing is being done about despite having court mandated visitation. This amounts to child abuse, as you guys know, because this is your field. And every single person who isn't doing every single thing that they can do to help these poor children see their mom is complicit in this abuse. We all want to believe that you're on our side, that you're on the side of these poor kids, and that you want to help. And you know, I want to think that that's the case, but that's harder and harder to believe without proof of progress. At this point, like I've said, and like so many have said, and I'll say it again because it needs to be said a million times until something changes. It's been 2 years. And at this point, enough is enough. And I am begging you to please help these kids, help this mom and the others whose lives have literally been ruined because of this woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shana.
Ms. Overton, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, sir. My name's Mia Overton, and when I found out that we would have a forensic psychologist brought into my custody battle, I was excited because I thought forensic psychology, they're going to get to the bottom of things. I actually did not complete her report, her evaluation, because the behavior by my ex to my children during that evaluation was crimping down, where he was rewriting history, and it was getting worse on them. I am just an outsider, a mother. I'm not in the legal system. But being in the Brazos Valley, there's widespread knowledge of her unethics. And I caught wind of it first when my own attorney, Chana Borman, told me in a meeting that, quote, Dr. Arredondo usually sides in my cases, end quote. And that is when I came out of that meeting. I did not feel confident that I had an advantage. I was afraid because I said what she just indicated indicates that she would be capable of being unethical out of a loyalty. And I have since connected with other parents, even Father's Rights, where they like Dr. Arredondo, and they have said, yeah, she said the same thing to me. I'm amazed. You think the justice system is going to back you when you are a good parent and they're going to keep your children safe. But these are tools that are used. I cross-examined her. I did not have an attorney during my trial, and she lied on the stand. And I filed a complaint, a formal complaint against her. When you end up connecting to other parents in this area and you start finding out that she said some of the same exact things, and it's the nature of the parents that she's going against, there is a biasness that she has. And I think it's got personal motivations for some reason. And there's definitely an unethical collusion going on between her and attorneys.
30 seconds.
And something really does need to be looked at, because you start finding out the nature of the kind of parents that these children are being turned over to. And I beg y'all to please look into and please do something, because I can't imagine y'all don't know about the system that's going on. Because as an outsider, I'm now privy by talking and comparing notes to attorneys and other people that know that she has an abuse of power and is very unethical.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Overton.
Ms. Lawhorn, do you have public comments you'd like to make? Ms. Lawhorn, you have public comment?
She's on mute. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
All right. My name is Joan Lawhorn, and I am an LCSW. And what I would like to say today is I would like to recommend that the board add to our required CEUs self-care. I think we don't take care of ourselves enough as a profession. And I think that if it was a requirement, like the requirement for ethics, that we'd be more encouraged to do so. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Having just gone through, oops, I'm not supposed to talk, forgot. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, Madam Chair, can I just respond to that real quick? Thank you, Ms. Lawn. I really appreciate that. That is not easy to do. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Mr. Balkin, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
You're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Its audio is really bad.
Not great audio.
Can you hear me? Oh, running outside. Hi, is this any better? You can
Much
laugh.
better.
Okay, I think you've pretty much heard I'm here on behalf of Alyssa Karsagi. I know there's other people in the same situation as well as her. I believe you've probably heard pretty much anything that I would say about Dr. Arredondo or her case in particular. I think what I'd like to add is about every week or so, I read about crimes like shoplifting or violent crimes, things like that are done in broad daylight in cities across the country. In a lot of these cases, there are a lot of bystanders who do nothing. You've heard everything we know about Dr. Arredondo. Don't be a bystander. This is your moment. I think you should take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balkin.
Ms. Cammie, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
You're on mute.
Cammie or Kim High? I'm not sure how you pronounce your last name.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for giving me opportunity to speak. I just wanted to be here for Alyssa, vouch for her. She is a teacher in my kid's school. She teaches one of my kids. Just everything that everybody has said on her behalf, and obviously the other victims. It's heartbreaking, and I just wanted to be here for her and vouch for her capabilities, abilities, for the person that she is. She's so pleasant with the kids, such a good, happy person to be around. My son adores having her in the classroom with her. I've seen Alyssa after hours playing with her same students in the park. And I just can't imagine that she can't do that with her own kids. Meanwhile, she's doing it around other mothers having their kids around her. It's just heartbreaking, not only as a mother, but just as a human being, knowing that this happened to her and that she's been fighting for such a case for so long. And it feels like it's just dragging along. I just wanted to be here for her and make sure that hopefully things change quickly, and hopefully she'll be able to be with her kids again soon. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Kami. I do want to interrupt for a moment to say that the implication that this group might not be taking these comments seriously is an incorrect assumption. I can't tell you how many times meetings have ended where we have agonized over these issues. We are not being irresponsible. We certainly care about the future of children who are being affected. The way you describe, our authority is limited. And any hesitation you see, or anything that seems like hesitation, is indeed our efforts at protecting both the mothers and the children, and even the other parent affected. So I want you to know for certain that there is nobody on this board that doesn't take children who are in danger seriously. We are, however, limited. But please continue. Ms. Leonard, I think, is next.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend, we seem to, every time we take public comment, like 2 more pop up. I'd like to just make a quick statement. If you have public comment, please put your hand up right now. Because we don't need to keep perpetuating this cycle where we get down to 1 or 2 and then 2 more people pop up. If I don't see anything in the next 10, 15 seconds, the last public comment we take will be Ms. Gina Odom, and then the one caller that's identified. Other than that, if you've got public comment, you need to put your hand up right now. Okay, Ms. Leonard, did you have public comment you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you so much for letting me speak. I am here in support of Ms. Korsagi and everybody else that is going through this agonizing situation. I agree with everything that was said already, and I just want to beg you, I know that you are doing your best. May God bless you and give you the strength and wisdom to do what is right. You are in the position to do this, and know how much you will at least ease the pain that is going through in so many cases. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard.
Ms. Odom, did you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you all for taking my call. And I just wanted to say, I'm here on behalf of Alyssa, and I was involved with her court case. And in the last hearing that we had about, we had never heard a decision on Dr. Kim Arredondo. And, you know, it's disheartening and sickening to hear how limited everyone is. So who can we talk to do anything? Like, how can we make any movements on this? Why do we have to keep doing this for 2 years with these boys being abused and away from their mother? Like, where do we go from here? Like, all I hear is how people are limited and no authority to take care of it. Well, then who is? So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you. With the end of public comments, this council.
We have one more caller we need to check.
Oh, I'm
with,
sorry. I
Madam Chair.
didn't see that. Thank you.
Caller, do you have public comments you'd like to make? You use *6 to unmute yourself if you do. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay. That concludes public comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I apologize for that. There being no more public comments, we have recommendations for the next meeting, for the next agenda, and an executive session. I'd like to take 5 or 10 minutes for an email break, and we will resume. It's 11:52. We will resume at right at noon.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. It's 12:01 on February 1, and we're back in regular session. At this time, I'd like to go into, the Executive Council will go into executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Items Act on agenda item 12L. This is a report on matters referred to the Office of the Attorney General for litigation. And we'll be doing that to receive legal advice from our attorney under section 551.071 of the Government Code. The date is February 1. The time is 12:02. To the members of the public in attendance, if you wish, you may stay logged on into this Zoom meeting. The council members will leave. And once the council's closed session is finished, we will rejoin the Zoom meeting, at which time we'll probably be identifying new agenda items, since that's all that left on the agenda. For those who are logging out, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate your interest. All members of the public that are in physical attendance are requested to leave the meeting room at this time. Is that right, Daryl? Did I get everything?
Correct, but there's nobody in attendance down there. So,
Oh, well, then we're good.
yeah, the way this will work, all the council members now who are appearing virtually, you guys will all end or log out of this webinar. Click on the link that Patrick sent you. That will take you into the closed session. Gloria, you and I will go into Patrick's office,
Okay.
and I will leave the webinar running on my computer here in my office.
All right. So do we leave the meeting physically, or do we just pause it?
You can just turn your camera off and mute your mic.
Got it. I think Executive Council is now reconvened in open session on February 1, 2022 at 12:35 p.m. I believe that what we've got left is simply item 14. Is that right? Any recommendations for agenda items for the next council meeting? Is there anything? And we'll go through standard reports and anything submitted by the member boards that you represent. And I think that's it. Daryl, is there anything that I'm overlooking?
That's it.
Thank you all for attending. Thanks to you and the public who joined us. It's our pleasure to represent you. If there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Also move. Madam Chair.
Adjourn. Sorry. Thank you, Chris. Was that it? Is there a second? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
John, I
Thank you
like
so
that.
much.
Second.
Thank you all.
Your second.
See you guys later.
Thank you, everybody.